Hailing frequencies open, and welcome to Star Trek Discoverage, a live podcast that boldly goes into excruciating detail about this week's episode of Star Trek Picard. I'm your host, Aaron Coker, aka Caliban, and the trial never ends, but we did get a 28-year-long recess. Joining me on the show, as usual, is my co-host. She's also the co-host of the Generations Geek podcast, a more or less family-friendly celebration of geekdom. It's Ella Pearson. Ella, welcome back to Discoverage.
Thank you.
Good to be back again. We were just here, but now we're back. So if anybody is joining us and doesn't know who we are, let's introduce ourselves again. Ella, tell the people what you have going on besides your important work on Discoverage.
Of course. There's my the original podcast I started with. It's called Generations Geek. I do it with my dad. We started it when I was, as discussed in the last episode of Discoverage. We started it 10 years ago when I was 14. With a focus on sort of, like growing up with fandom things. So, for us, it was Star Trek, maybe Lord of the Rings. And so we interview people and like to ask them how they got into the things that they love.
Yeah.
And it has expanded since then. We have episodes on all kinds of stuff. So there's something for everybody.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned Lord of the Rings. Like, obviously the Peter Jackson movies are old now, but I feel like Lord of the Rings is... it's getting a big glow up. It's going to be a big property soon. I bet you're going to see a lot of Tolkien podcasts and properties starting.
Fingers crossed. I mean, I don't know. I know, again, as we've talked about before on Discoverage, I know a few, at least one Tolkien podcast that's, in my opinion, very high above the rest because, they're just good. It's called Keep on Tolkien. But, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I love more of the things that I love. It's the same way I felt about when it was like, I want to do a Star Trek movie. I was like, I guess, sure. I mean, give it to him. I want to know what, I want to know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see everything that's coming up.
Are there any, how do I put this? Are there any dirty LOTR podcasts out there? Do you know what I mean?
Like, I mean, define dirty.
I will.
This is funny because I was going to make a joke about this being like Discoverage After Dark because we did the first episode at 8 and now we're doing the 9 p.m.
We're past the watershed. Yeah.
I know. I was like, should I get a drink? Like, what's the vibe for the 9 p.m. show in these 3 weeks,
Picard is Star Trek for adults, or at least for old people.
Exactly.
No, I mean, I've listened to a couple Lord of the Rings podcasts, and they've all been fine, but they're all very much like, yes. It's kind of like listening to an NPR podcast. And I wonder if there's any, not that I would love this necessarily, but where they talk about, like, I don't know, how hobbits go to the bathroom or, just dumb stuff like that. The real nitty-gritty in and out of Middle Earth.
I don't know if I would call Keep on Tolkien a dirty podcast per se. However, they do love a good, they love a cuss word.
Sure.
The expletives are flying throughout that show. They embrace it. So it's, it's adult in that way. I don't know. And maybe this is me because I, again, for so many years did a podcast I was a child. So, obviously not going to swear in front of my father, God forbid, Scott Pearson, who'll have a second heart attack. But yeah, I don't know. I think they would get into the nitty gritty if they felt like it. I've been on and was told to, freely swear, which is much different than my normal podcast. Yeah. Also one here, I feel like I don't know if I've ever said anything remotely rude on this podcast.
On this one?
Yeah, I think I swore that time that Culber had his muscles out. You remember that?
Well,
he's like jacked.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, vividly.
Even the FCC would forgive you for that. That's fine. That's fine. Well, I wonder if Tolkien, as a linguist and a guy that invented languages, saw swearing as like beneath him, or if he like appreciated, the history, the orthography of profanity.
I feel like in Lord of the Rings, they always swear and they're just saying God's name. They're saying the God with it, Eru Iluvatar,
Yeah.
Bleep it out if you need
Elbereth.
to. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. They're always like saying like a person's name or like a deity's name. which I'll tell you from personal experience remains true in Lord of the Rings fan fiction. It's always like, duh, and then it's a god.
Yeah.
It's always Eru.
Nice.
So
I love it.
I don't know.
All right. Well, anyway,
I wish I could ask the professor himself. I'm sure that if keep on talking, they'd have some thoughts for you on that one.
Yeah. Well, they can pay us at this point because we talk about them enough on the show. But
anyway, I
anyway,
give them a commercial every week.
I guess I'll just say real fast that our main show is Enterprising Individuals, as you see above me. This show, it was kind of a growth of that. I started it 7 years ago thinking, somebody should make a Star Trek podcast. Why aren't there any Star Trek podcasts? And of course, didn't realize there's a million of them, but I feel like we've hopefully distinguished ourselves in the way that we talk in excruciating detail about episodes, but also talk about the social issues that are in Trek. And then, of course, speaking of picking the exact right time, like a year after I started Enterprising Individuals, that's when the swell started, and we knew there was going to be a new Discovery show. And then, of course, now we're living in, the great new Trek utopia. So we're here every week on Thursday until they start doing Trek on a different day to talk about new Star Trek shows. And they'll have to at some point, right? Like the traffic jam that we've got this week, that's got to be a symptom of them going, where do we put all? We've got an embarrassment of riches here.
I don't know. It feels like they're trying to recreate some olden times TV,
Must-see TV Thursdays.
Yeah, like a nice, like you got to watch these 2 hours, or like the shows everyone's watching.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't watch any. The only TV show that I watch episode by episode is Star Trek.
Okay, sure. I can see that. Yeah, have a whole block, have like you were talking about, Star Trek nights, but like having Prodigy at 7, and then having Discovery at 8, and then Picard at 9.
Exactly.
Having those be the lead.
And then the commercials in between.
Yeah, well, of course you have to have those, unless you have the premiere, the elite version of Paramount Plus, which I don't have.
And I do, or should I say, my father does.
Oh, okay. Well, good for you.
Good for you and your
father.
I'm mooching. Yeah. Well, I'm an only child, so I get to, just stay on the phone plan and stay on the streaming services.
So was Frodo, wasn't he?
Yes. I guess. Actually, his parents died, right?
Yeah, he was an only
didn't really
anything.
Get the chance.
Yeah, there was nobody else. Yeah. All right. Enough of that. Let's talk really quick about the news in the world of Star Trek. And we have a news story that is particularly related to what we're talking about. Did you know that 10 Forward is a real place? On March 10th, and then going through until March 20th in the Los Angeles area, they're going to have a pop-up called the 10 Forward Experience. It'll be held at a local bar in LA, and the event will be inspired by Guinan's Bar, as we see it on the show. And they'll have food and drinks, the food trucks, photo opportunities, and they'll have a special store called the 10 Forward Canteen Store, where you can buy Star Trek merchandise.
Always LA.
Somebody's hearing this, and they're like, they're getting on Expedia, they're booking, they're like, I can go to LA, I'll go to LA, yeah, no problem.
And I would.
Yeah, you're the person that would do it.
It's me. It's as you said, I was like, I wonder if I went on a Hopper, how much those tickets would be, but I'm not going to do it. Somebody else who has, a less COVID anxiety will, and more power to them.
Yeah.
But it's always when will Minnesota get the pop-ups?
When we have something shot here, remember like in the late 90s, early 2000s, they were shooting a lot of things here.
Yeah.
Because like tax credits, but I don't think that's happening really anymore. Whatever Canada's got, we have to get that.
You're right.
Because
we must have it. What do they have that we don't have?
Probably tax credits and discounts. Because think of
white expansive tundra. Polar bears that'll kill you.
Yeah, polar bears. We look like Canada, but we've got, well, it's probably more expensive. Think of what a pain it has to be to like get your work visa. You're an American actor. You got to go up there, all the union members and everything. And just bring it to Minnesota. It worked for Feeling Minnesota, the Keanu Reeves, Cameron Diaz movie from 1998. No?
Okay, something is adding up for me here because one of my parents always tells a story about seeing Keanu Reeves in the poetry section of Barnes & Noble.
1996.
And now I'm like, okay, because Keanu Reeves was here.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
I saw Josh Hartnett at a restaurant once.
I saw Garrison Keillor at the Minnesota State Fair.
That's
so now who's more Minnesotan? Yeah, now it's too bad. I forgot about it for a second when I said it.
Yeah. Well, anyway,
scratch that part.
You got me there. But yeah, so if you're in the LA area or in the California area, go check that out. It does sound like a lot of fun.
I'm so jealous.
I know that they book. You can't just go hang out. They book like blocks of time, right? Like 90-minute blocks of time.
Oh, of course, because it's an experience.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and so that's cool. And hopefully there won't be like a bouncer. Like, you don't think Guinan has like a velvet rope to get into Guinan's bar?
I feel like a bouncer, maybe the bouncer is part of the experience. Maybe there's a bouncer in a Starfleet security uniform.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would love that.
A big Klingon guy.
I would love for somebody to give me, when they're like mean about your ID, I would love for somebody to be mean about my ID, but in a Starfleet security uniform. That'd be great.
I'd be like, oh, we need to test your blood to see if you're a changeling.
Rude. Yeah. You ever have people be like Minnesota? And I'm like, what do you want? At least you're not bendy anymore.
Right. Yeah.
The IDs.
Yeah.
Anyways. So should we do more Minnesota niche?
Yeah, well, we've done Lord of the Rings, we've done Minnesota.
I'm like, the IDs were bendy?
Yeah. We should probably still remember when they were credit cards, with the punch-out letters and everything. But enough of that, old man. Let's talk about Star Trek. That's what we're here to do. We've just seen the first episode of the second season of Star Trek Picard, an episode called The Stargazer, and we're here to talk all about it. But first, a warning. While we're setting course for the spoiler zone, listeners, so if you haven't seen the episode, spoilers are incoming. The official synopsis for The Stargazer is, Starfleet must once again call on legendary Jean-Luc Picard after members of his former crew, Cristobal Rios, Seven of Nine, Raffi Musiker, and Dr. Agnes Jurati discover an anomaly in space that threatens the galaxy. The story is by Akiva Goldsman and Terry Matalas. This episode was directed by Doug Arniakowski, who is a veteran director for the franchise, did a lot of Discovery and so on. The date for this episode, no star date, but the calendar date is 2401. And I wanted to just share a couple facts about the episode. In the scene where everybody is sort of like meeting up at the anomaly, we actually see 4 starships from Star Trek Online that have only appeared there, that make an appearance in this episode. The Gagarin class, the Reliant class, the Ross class, and the Sutherland class all appear, which I think that's an interesting cross-pollination there. And we also see...
That's awesome.
Yeah, in the sort of fleet, we see 2 Sovereign class vessels, which is the first time that we've seen a Sovereign class outside of the TNG films, the Enterprise E.
How cool! I did not that I would. I'm not really a starship expert, but I didn't catch that at all.
Yeah, that was a fun scene because you're just kind of like, yeah, and they got one of those, and they got one of those. Yeah. Well, speaking of new ships, there's a new ship in this episode. It's the titular ship. If the Stargazer refers to the ship, what did you think about the Stargazer?
Gorgeous. I had forgotten, if I'm going to be honest, I had forgotten that Picard had Captain Stargazer. So when they were like, when there was the implication that we knew her being the ship, I was like, it's the Enterprise, and then it like panned up, and I was like, okay, so I feel like a clown. Great though. I mean, I don't know. I love seeing the new ships. I've loved them all since the beginning. I love the sound effects. I love seeing everything. I loved seeing the uniforms. I thought it was great. What did you think?
I have so many thoughts about it, and they're all mostly positive, but they all have to do specifically with the fact that, I don't want to treat this any differently than, Discovery or any other new Star Trek show, but like more than anything, this feels like this is kind of the sequel to TNG, right? And TNG was like, that's my show. Like that is, what I came up watching. And so every time that there's something new, I have to be like, okay, or like, oh, no, not that. So I'm going to be kind of opinionated, but I did like it a lot overall. And, one of those things is just seeing like the Stargazer, which by the way, didn't the Stargazer like blow up, in like the 2350s or something like that? When they refit a ship, are they really taking like a 60-year-old hull and like put the new warp drive in there, put new deck plating on there? When you go into the bathrooms, does it have like avocado and like taupe, really old colors and stuff like that?
I wish it would.
Yeah, well, I suppose that would be kind of cool. But
Avocado.
fascinating to see, and really, I think a great idea. So, like I said, I'm going to be all over the map in this episode. Good thing, bad thing. Really great, I think, way back into our characters, because our characters last season avert galactic Armageddon. They're all, they've been thrown together. They don't necessarily plan to stay together, but they're, what do we do now? And having Rios, go back to Starfleet, get his commission back, and then command like the new refit Stargazer. That's pretty good. That's real tight as far as having our characters come back together.
And he's allowed to smoke on the bridge.
Which, okay, hold on, come on here.
Okay.
It's like a prop, right? Like he doesn't. I wouldn't want.
Hollow.
Yeah, right. I wouldn't want the secondhand smoke, but maybe maybe in the future the cigarettes don't give you cancer. I don't know. But
if they're still smoking, we can only hope.
Yeah, but you've got Picard becoming commandant of the Academy, embracing his legacy role. You've got Rios back in the command chair. You've got Raffi back in Starfleet, and then Elnor joined Starfleet as a cadet. Wasn't this the non-Starfleet show? Wasn't that the point of Picard, is that we were so excited? Hey, look, I remember 2 years ago, all we talked about was like, oh, I love the fact that like they're outside of the world that we know. They're outside of the institutions that we know. And then like, and I know that like they're going to travel back in time. It's not going to matter. But like, is this the best destiny? Sure, for James Kirk, that chair on a bridge, that's his best destiny. But like, not every character has to be in Starfleet. That can't be everybody's best of all possible worlds, or of both worlds.
That's an interesting, I don't know if I want to call it a critique. That's an interesting point to make. I hadn't thought about that. I guess the first season of Picard, I guess it and I think we share this, that it didn't stand out as like the most amazing season of Star Trek ever written. And so
it was up and down.
Yeah. And so I hadn't really thought about it as far as like pros and cons of like, okay, we're back on the ship. I was just like, this is a surprisingly good first episode for the second season. Like I was just pleasantly surprised. I don't know. So do you think it's a bad thing that they're gravitating more towards their roots?
Well,
per se, I mean, we still have Seven. We still have
yeah.
Is Agnes? She must be like a consultant.
Well, she was hanging out with Soji, right? And so, like a diplomatic kind of thing.
Getting drunk and then going right back on the bridge.
Yeah, which I guess that wasn't Synthahol, because she's like,
I know. I was like, oh.
Yeah, I don't. It's like I said, it's totally academic. We have to accept it going forward. This is the only time that I can really bring it up and go, maybe like everybody being in the Navy is like not necessarily what we need, especially on a show where it's been outside the Federation. We've got Prodigy, which is a great show, but you've got like 6 kids who are all like, oh, we all want to be in the Navy. And it's like, no, you can do anything with your life. You don't have to be in the military.
We want to be in ROTC.
Yeah, so I don't know. I just wanted to bring that up. That being said, though, it's cool that they're all looking better. Like the first season is the before and the second season is after. Like after they get off meth or whippets or whatever. Raffi looks great. Rios has got his haircut and everything, and he's looking good. And so it's cool to see everybody kind of on their feet.
It does also seem like, with the time stuff, Q, that I don't think we're going to spend that much time with Starfleet. I mean, it seems like they're going to have to do it, by themselves again.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see that they, like you said, it's very nice that they're back on their feet. But I think that maybe going forwards, we're going to have a lot more of kind of that like rogue, I don't know, Firefly-esque, like, oh, we're going to take care of business. We're going to take down the Borg Queen.
Yeah. And
joke's on you, Q, because we're ending the trial now.
Right. Yeah. I put this whole court on trial. Yeah. Q, boy, they really sandbagged Q. He only shows up right at the end. And
I know. I was like, why'd they don't even show it to me in the trailer. I want to be surprised.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I thought that what they did with the aging was great. Everybody was like, well, how's John Delancey going to look? You just take care of it real easy. And
Also, yeah,
And they spent the
really.
least amount of money possible on the Nick Fury CGI to just have him
They did, and I support them. I think that was the right
one shot of
decision.
him going like, huh,
Yep.
boom, and then
And I
he's
guess,
old. Yeah,
huh.
it's perfect.
Hmm. Hmm.
But yeah, they really held that to the end. This was a long episode, and I feel like I felt it in the first half. But you're putting all the pieces together, you're getting everything together. You're having Picard um, meet people, be reminded of his calling, and then it really picked up in the second half. Something from the first half that I guess we're gonna follow, but I kind of question is, I guess like he and Laris are kind of a thing now, or they're sort of like suggesting that they could be a thing.
There was quite the lean in,
Yeah, yeah. And her
which I've,
partner slash other guy, he died somehow off screen. that guy's gone. Uh,
and
so
then there was she was like, "This is gonna be awkward, so I'm gonna leave because I don't
why are
care
we
for it."
doing this? That's what I'm asking. Why is this necessary?
I mean, I was like, I was trying to figure out how to make a joke because I'm always I get the secondhand embarrassment from Saru hitting on the president of
Yes.
Navarre,
Yeah.
right? And so then I was watching this and I was like, oh, he's leaning, and I was just sitting there and I was like, Jean-Luc,
Yeah.
you're leaning real far, nothing's happening, and I was just like, oh,
That's a big lean. That's a
God.
big lean.
Big lean for them not to follow through.
Yeah. Yeah. He goes to Guinan, and she has always been his guiding star in the problems in his life or his career, and she pegs right away that this isn't about command, this isn't about your duties. Like you got it bad.
This
like,
is about a woman.
You're in love, yeah. And maybe we haven't had this talk before because for 28 years, like it hasn't been a problem. And I thought it was interesting to show Picard like
Sorry.
not being able to close the deal, or if he even wants to close the deal, because Picard's not like a huge lover, but when he likes somebody, he kind of goes after him. I mean, he's never really had a problem with that, but like there's a lot of uncertainty in this this lean, like he says, that he makes. And so I don't know. I don't want to say that I totally dislike it. I just kind of wonder, clearly she's going to be some big part of the alternate timeline somehow, otherwise why would we do this? And will this resolve before season 3? Like, will this be something that shows up again in season 3? Get Picard a girlfriend. Fine, I don't care. But I'm just saying.
Go ahead.
It just seems a weird thing. It seems like a weird thing to try to adjudicate, and then immediately, well, that entire timeline's gone. We're just going to do this instead.
What's that? I was gonna say, what's the Jim Kirk quote where he's like, "I've already got one woman to worry about, and her name is the Enterprise."
Right. Exactly. Yeah. She takes, I give. Yeah.
Yeah, that's been that's the vibe I get off Shell. He's bigger things to worry about. He's doing some. He's got his little, he's got the orchard. He's living a good life.
If we are kind of dipping into his love life, or the idea of him being with somebody, is this
give me a refresh?
Yeah, is this a hint that we might be seeing yesterday's birthday girl, Gates McFadden, on the show in the future?
Oh, I mean, we can only hope, right? I feel like I said a lot.
She contributed to Prodigy.
Mm-hmm.
They're in the alternate timeline.
I mean, that's what I was about to say. I was like, she could be, but it's also 2024.
Well,
right? That's what they said.
Parts of it, yeah. So he's in the alternate timeline. If there's I don't know how they do like the Terran Empire, but it's not the Terran Empire. But whatever, we'll find out. And so he's in this dystopia, and he, of course, is still Picard, and so he's going to like rebel against his bosses, and they send their best agent after him, and it's Crusher, Agent Crusher. And she's got,
she never went to medical school.
It's Goth Crusher. Yeah, she went to learn how to better,
She went to the opposite of medical
school.
The
torture school. The opposite of medical school. Anti-medical school.
Oh, I was going to say, your idea is better. I was going to be like, it's 2024, so they have to go to like the hospital. God forbid someone has to cut into you. It's dark gauges. You need a shot. No hypo sprays in sight. Stumble into the ER. And he looks up and it's Crusher. He's got blood all over his head. It's a mess.
They like, it's smart. They like picking some of the best things from previous things. So I predict in the future a scene where they go to a hospital. So Seven's been shot or something like that, and they're like, "Oh, we gotta go get the bullet out." And they're like, "What? Stand back! What? This is the Dark Ages.
What are you doing?
Give me the thing to wave over her. Wave it. She's fine."
What's that? Oh God, is it Star Trek 4 where McCoy that lady, her kidney is failing,
the
and
kidney
he gives her
pill.
the pill, and
Yeah.
he's like, "Oh, it's that Dark Ages."
I'm on a lot of kidney pills, but come on, bring that dialysis machine over here. Yeah.
They probably have cancer pills. Maybe the cigar doesn't matter.
Oh, sure, of course. They got pills for all
It's
kinds of
pumped
stuff.
back. Yeah.
What else? It's interesting to see. They really kind of. So the first season, it started with one of the characters being violently exploding, and that's bad. But it took a little while for Picard to finally get all of his stuff together and get off the planet. And they have a lot of work to do in this season because they get right into it. He's talking to people on Earth, and then it's like, nope, I'm going to do this. Boom, boom, boom. We're all on the Stargazer. We see a lightning storm in space.
Yeah, he got right on that shuttle. He did not care.
Yeah, right. He gets right on there, and then
he said goodbye. Well, he didn't say goodbye.
Presumably, maybe it's the Borg Queen. We don't really know, but this thing is on the ship. It's trying to take it over. We blow it up. Once it started moving, it really started moving.
Yeah, I was very surprised that the teaser that they dropped, was that last week? I was very surprised that was essentially just the height of this episode, right? The height of the action of this episode.
Yeah.
In fact, I was a little disappointed because I was like, this isn't hitting as the teaser hit well. The teaser, I was like, this is crazy. And then to watch the episode, I was like, oh, now we're getting to the teaser part. And I already know what happens. And it's already happening in the first episode. I mean, it's still, very exciting, but I was like, why did we see everything? Why did we saw Q, we saw the Borg Queen in the teaser?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. The teaser at the end of this episode was also pretty informative, I think. There was a lot of things that we've seen before, but a little bit of extra stuff. What do you think about what they are kind of setting up as the central conceit, which is, they take the idea of the Stargazer, and he is a stargazer. He's a person who looks to the horizon, to the future, to adventure, and that being introduced by his mother, a character who we have only seen as a phantasm in that episode where they, fly beyond where thought and memory are one, or whatever. What do you think they're setting up with that? I
remember watching that episode. I think they're setting up. I mean, it's very. I mean, not to be boring with my answer. I think it's very Star Trek, right?
Sure.
It's very the idea of oh, look up and you'll find the answer in the stars, and there's something better out there.
And while you're looking up,
I'll
be dragged through a door or something. What's going on with that?
Yeah, a little. I was okay, a little questionable for young Jean-Luc, his initial interest here, his drive to be while your father, don't worry about your father and I fighting, because we're just specks in the galaxy. I was like, okay. Anyways.
Weird. It's weird.
Weird.
It's weird that we've only seen Yvette Picard in that one episode of TNG, and then we've seen Rene. I can't remember what his dad's name is, but in Tapestry, where it's another illusion yelling at him. So it's weird to take the actor and the character to essentially the age of 90 and then go, but we're going to look at his parents. He's a little short pantsed boy. And we're gonna
I was like, okay, the newsy vibes are off the charts.
So yeah, sometimes it's the future. You guys can wear tinfoil. That's fine. You don't have to do it for our benefit. But and I think now at the kind of near the end of the life of the character, they're gonna go all the way back to the character's origins. It's a good place to go, I guess. But it's I never thought that we would do that. So.
I mean, I think it's really interesting. And I again, not to be, this is kind of a shallow answer maybe, but I love a time goof. And also I love Q, but I love a time goof maybe first and Q second, but nobody tell John Delancey I said that. Stays here.
That's okay. He's tough enough. He can take it. He's done plenty of time goofs. So we'll have to see where that goes. What else? What do you think? Let's talk about theories. the theory portion of the show. What do you think is happening with the Borg? We've seen this Spider-Borg ship come out of this anomaly. They say that they're, looking for peace, or that they come under a flag of truce, and then they start taking over the ship. Like, what's happening?
I mean, to be honest, I was questioning whether once Q showed up, I was questioning whether the Borg were actually there at all. And then obviously we get the shot of the Borg Queen in the teaser, which is interesting because it's like, oh, you'll have to turn to your darkest enemy to help you save the world, which is great. Love it, can't wait. But I'm on my toes about what Q is doing, because I think he's the bigger, like, a power play here. I mean, because I don't know why else. I mean, maybe he did just snatch Picard and the crew because they were about to die. The ship was self-destructing. And he was like, boop. But I don't know, I'm suspicious of, I mean, why would the Borg attack the ship if they were then, I guess we don't know, right, if the Borg Queen also, like, if Q put her there. She seems to have some knowledge of what's going on, but she's also kind of crazy.
They want help, whatever form that is going to take. And I think I just realized that, like, when they hear, they hear this signal, and it's like, 43 different voices or languages asking for help. And it's like, is that the Borg? Is it the fact that they are a collective? Are they hearing that? Or are there more species represented that we haven't seen? If their intentions are hostile, good is dumb, as Dark Helmet tells us. So maybe the best, like, trap for Picard was just to, like, say, have a bunch of voices saying, "Help us, Picard," and then he shows up, and it's like, ha 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 ha.
Got him.
Yeah.
In the past, has she always called him Locutus?
I think it's still up in the air, and we'll probably get our answers in this show, like whether there is one queen or if it's a different person. Okay. Because the one queen dies.
That might be a clue.
Yeah, the one queen dies on First Contact Day, but then Voyager's dealing with somebody. So, it's fascinating. I also like the fact that, I mean, obviously, you want a Borg. So all those times that they told Picard, we're going to fight the Borg, but you got to go do garbage duty because we don't trust you. This is why, because they've got 7 of 9 on the bridge, and you think, oh, perfect, she's a Borg expert, but she immediately is like, she's like escalating the situation as much as possible. And I like the fact, I can't remember if it's her or somebody else.
I kind of agree with her.
Oh, are you on her side?
A little bit.
Somebody brings up the point that if they're in trouble, or if we have exceeded them in terms of what they can handle, they adapt, right? So maybe their new adaptation is to pretend like they want peace. Normally they just roll in and go, give us the stuff, go on, let's go. Maybe their adaptation is like, being deceptive. Like that's their new tactic to to take over.
Well, yeah, and that's what I was like, 7 is right in saying that. It's like, for how do you know that they actually do want the help? And geez, I don't know. I did think when he hit the self-destruct, I was like, how mad is everybody on Earth now? It took them so long to trust him. And he goes and he biffs it for the second time, like pretty big biff, both like astronomical biff.
Yeah.
Like a Borg biff.
Q's there to just erase that. He's like, look, you screwed up again. I'll
He's
tell
like,
you what,
idiot.
Free of charge.
Like,
I'll just wipe that out. Don't worry about it. It's okay. I got your back. Like when you were stabbed in the back. I took care of that too. Don't want to mention it. It's fine. Yeah. It's good to have a Q in your back pocket.
Oh, it is. And there's a reason why even the science vessels have big guns on them, right? And it's because when the Borg cube shows up, and says, help me, we're going to transport to the bridge. And guess what? The transporters can get through your shields because it's time to, this isn't really the heart of Star Trek. And it's a new opinion for me to be like, fire the torpedoes. But like,
I doubt this is something that we talked about, last season was, are we going to get an idea? It seems like the future, the 25th century is different than the 24th century, at least different than Picard's time, the era of kind of Berman Trek. And I don't know if that is being explored or we're just seeing the way that they make Trek now, but literally everybody, the janitor, everybody's got a phaser, and they're all just wailing away on this thing. And Rios is like, everybody stop. I'm the captain. Stop. So that's like not great. And then, also, I just realized they did that thing, and a lot of shows do this, but I just hate this device where it's like, we start in the middle of something. They knew they had to build up. They wanted the audience to know that things are going to get hot right away. And so we start off following these people as they get to the bridge, and then they're all taken out one by one. When we loop back 48 hours earlier, when we get to that point later on in the show, those people run out and get shot down, and they weren't important in any way. It wasn't like one of those characters is like, oh, we're going to meet this like Stargazer crew member. They were just there to like remind us that it happened at the beginning. And it was like, well, then why not just start it? He's making wine. Who cares? Yeah. That's just a structure pick for me.
I also, your comment about the phasers, I was like, when I don't know who initially gave the order to like draw phasers. Was it Picard? But then it was like, she's not there yet, so they're just like they're pointing wildly around the bridge. Obviously, it's not quite the same as like a gun, but I assume the Borg Queen's coming. You got those on kill. They're not on stun.
Right. Yeah.
You're just
Somebody's losing a toe here. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, better the Borg Queen than a Starfleet officer, but still.
Yeah, gosh. I think Seven drew down and fired, and then they showed like one other ensign-looking guy who's like, "Oh, are we doing this?" Oh, yeah, and he just started shooting too.
It's like, oh, okay, sure, yeah.
Yeah, being trigger happy, is that something we should explore on Star Trek? I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, we did, not to go here, but I did, I think we got a glimpse of somebody really taking down a police officer in in 2024.
We'll get there. Let's just save it. We'll get there. Anything else you can think of? We didn't barely talked about Elnor at all. Do you think
he was barely in the episode at all?
Is he on Rafi's ship? Was that?
Yeah, right.
Okay. All right. So he'll show up hopefully.
Yeah, we'll get him. They can't. You don't throw him away. You love him.
No, I do love him, but I think it's funny that his whole thing when we met him was like, man, you abandoned me. All I wanted to do was just spend time with you. And he's like, okay, but like, stay on the board cube. I'm going to go over here. And now it's like, I made you join Starfleet and go off that way. And I'm going to go over here. And it's just like Elnor is a single tear.
Maybe he's forgiven him.
Yeah, I guess.
I was half thinking, I was like, Picard is about to say that Elnor is like his adopted heir to the Picard Chateau fortune. Because he got up there and he was like, I stand here as the last Picard. And I was like, what are we doing? I was like, do I need to get my seatbelt on?
Elnor
where
Picard.
are we going?
I like it. He's going to Dick Grayson him. I like that.
He's worthy. I like Elnor. I'm excited. It was so sweet that he was in the academy and everything. I'm excited to see how he's doing on Rafi's ship.
Yeah. Elnor and Starfleet would be interesting to explore. When Picard dies, then he becomes the Picard. He's got to like shave his head, and then he's like, boy, a lot of things promised. We'll have to see. Q does mention that what's happening is a penance for Picard, and so we'll find out if that's true or if the theory that we've espoused on the show before that maybe Q might have screwed something up and he needs Picard to help him fix it. We'll see how that plays out. But I think that's pretty much all I had to say. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that Q, he would be bummed if he, obviously we didn't see him in the first season, but if he did, like, if what happened is that he snatched Picard off the ship before he could die, it's like, he would be sad if he couldn't mess around with his bestie, also the one that doesn't punch him.
Yeah, right.
Another plus.
Yeah. I wonder if he'll, yeah. Well, I mean, Janeway's out there too, somewhere. Yes, I hope that we see more. I mean, the galaxy's better with Picard in it. I think that he's literally said before. So what I want to know is, what's he going to think about Picard's robot body, which they have not mentioned at all, which is funny. And will there be some sort of
He's a synth ally. He doesn't care.
yeah, right, right. Will there be some sort of disagreement between them? You know, if Picard does eventually say, well, just 100's pretty good. Let's shut it all down. Like if Q will let that happen. What if Q says, "Oh, Mon Capitan, no, the party's not over yet."
I was gonna say it's just a montage of Q like hitting the on button over and over again. He's like, you can't go to sleep forever. Get up and make some more wine.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You better lean all the way in next time.
Yeah, right. And when he does, then shoo, it's Q and kiss. Give the people what they want. Well, I think that's it for our show this week. Thanks for joining us, viewers. And if you like what you hear, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter at EISTPOD for updates and to get notified when new episodes of both Enterprising Individuals and Discoverage are released. You can tweet to us on the show by using the hashtag Discoverage or email us at eistpod@gmail.com. And while you're on the internet, why not head to your listening platform of choice and subscribe to our show feed. Give us a rating and a review because it really helps us out. And if you want to help the show grow, stop by our Patreon page at patreon.com/EISTpod. And as always, if you like the show, tell a friend. Discoverage will return on March 10th at 9 p.m. for the second episode of Star Trek Picard. We do not know anything about the episode yet, but we'll be here next Thursday to cover it for sure. We'll be going live once again at 9 p.m. Central, and a reminder that we will be going live at 8 p.m. to talk about Discovery if you're a Discovery fan. You can follow us on Twitter or Facebook at EISTpod or here on Twitch to get notified when we're live and broadcasting. In the meantime, check out our main show, Enterprising Individuals, at enterprisingindividuals.com. Every Wednesday on the show, I and a special guest discuss in excruciating detail a selected movie from Star Trek. We're doing movies this year on the show, and we have news from the Trek sphere and interviews with special guests. The show is on break this week, but we'll be back next week, and you can access all 6 seasons of episodes at enterprisingindividuals.com or wherever you get your podcasts. In the meantime, may I suggest that you check out our sister podcast, Backtrekking, where I and my co-host Gooey Fame look at the real-world inspirations behind classic episodes of Star Trek. Our most recent episode just dropped, and on it we talk about the TNG episode The Big Goodbye and one of the films, film noir films that inspired it, The Maltese Falcon. So it's the stuff that great podcasts are made of. And you can find Backtrekking at Backtrekking on Twitter or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks as always, Ella, for joining me, and tell people where they can find you online.
Thank you. Yeah, my podcast I was talking about earlier is called Generations Geek. I've been doing it for ages. I made a crack on the Discovery show that people can find some, probably some embarrassing stuff of me being 14 on there. That's great.
Yeah. Check that out. It's a great show. Also, you can find me at K-A-1-I-B-A-N on Twitter, and you can find all of the shows on the Just Enough Trope network at Just Enough Trope on Twitter. And that is it for us. We are signing off, and until next week, we will see you soon, and live long and prosper.